News on the go for you now. The Bana Pele Early Childhood Development Leadership Conference is underway in Bloemfontein. The Basic Education Minister, Cyril Ramaphosa, is currently speaking there. Let's listen in.
Collaborate and work together with private and civil society partners to come with a joint solution for the 1.3 million children in our country. To get where we need to be, we need to do something extraordinary, and that something is leadership. Leadership as government, leadership as the social sector, and leadership as our funders. Leadership in this sector is not just about making decisions, but it's also about having the courage to face the tough conversations. It's about having the resilience to keep going even when things get hard. And it's about understanding that none of us can do this alone. And leadership to me means creating collaborations that work. And if we're honest, collaboration is hard. Abraham Lincoln talks about leading a team of rivals in his biography. It's easy to work with people you like. It's easy to work with people that you agree with. But a team of rivals tests your emotional intelligence, and I'm sure the president can attest to this in his current role as the leader of the government of national unity. That this tests the way in which we think about solutions of the world. How do we come together when we don't always see eye to eye? In this sector, we have to ask ourselves, how do we shift away from a mindset of being competitive, rooted in scarcity, to one of collaboration and rooted in abundance? We have so much potential if we unite around the common goal. In trying to reach the audacious goals we are entering uncharted territory. And uncharted territory requires agility and the ability to adapt. Things are going to change. We're going to face challenges we've never faced before. And when we do, are we willing to change our minds? How open are we to learning from mistakes and evolving? It's not easy. We all have our deeply entrenched held beliefs and ideas, but sometimes we have to be willing to let go of what we know in order to make room for new solutions. And how much personal change are we willing to embrace? How much collective learning are we ready to go for? And this is where innovation becomes critical. We're not just talking about tech or gadgets. We're talking about the determination to seek better ways of solving problems. Innovations means letting go of the old ways of doing things that haven't worked. We can't keep doing more of the same and expecting different results. We need to innovate in our thinking and our collaboration and our solution. There's no step-by-step playbook for quality access to early learning for 1 million children. We are writing that playbook, and that writing starts today. It's time for new ideas, new methods, and intense learning. And that requires humility. The humility to admit when we're wrong, and the courage to change direction when we need to. We can't simply cling on to our old ideas simply because we are comfortable with them. We have heard the saying, change happens at the speed of trust. In the ECD sector, we must trust is not just as important, but it is everything. How do we build trust in the sector? How do we ensure that parents trust us? We have to remember the reason we are in this room. The reason we are working together is so that parents can trust us to get it right. And that trust is not just about accountability in government. It's also about how NGOs, donors, businesses, and every single player in the sector holds us accountable, and we trust one another. And how do we hold ourselves accountable? How do we make sure that the system works, not just for some, but for all? And so, look, the mission is hard. There will be setbacks. There will be obstacles, tough days. We will face difficult headwinds, and some may feel like giving up. But I want us to remember that we can't stop. No matter how hard it gets, we must keep moving forward. We need resilience. We need to support each other, because when we do, we will get there. Also, we need courage. If you're not scared by this mission of universal access to quality early learning by 2030, then maybe you're not truly grasping the kind of task that is at hand. In Africa, we have 60% of our population under the age of 25. That means the potential for growth is massive, and the potential for economic development is immense. Our continent will be home to the largest workforce by year 2060. However, this potential can't be realized if we do not make the right investments for our youth starting now. The time to alter future is now. It will not be easy, but it is well worth it. And to quote Nelson Mandela, our former president, Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And so we're climbing a mountain, a formidable mountain, but in facing that fear, we are feeling with those sweaty palms and racing heartbeats, we believe we will achieve what is impossible. And so I stand before you today to ask you, are you ready to embrace collaboration? Are you ready to trust each other and have the courage to push forward? The road ahead will be tough, but I believe we will travel it together. We will build a future where every child gets the quality learning they deserve. Together, we will put the children of this country first. Bana Pele. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the absolute pleasure of inviting the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, to come and give you the keynote address. One of the things that really encourages me about the President is that he is a full supporter of this kind of work. In fact, I think I probably abuse him when I constantly ask him to come and embrace and give us messages of support. But he truly is somebody who has supported not only just about getting quality education in South Africa, but also making sure that we get the early start. So, Mr. President, thank you very much for coming. We look forward to hearing your address.
All right, so as you can see, the President taking to the podium there as we anticipate the start of this inaugural summit. Let's continue listening in.
Minister of Basic Education, Deputy Minister of Finance, MEC of Basic Education in Gauteng, Director General, and business leaders who are here present, and all of you distinguished guests. When I came in, Minister and others gave me this coloring book. And Minister said, well, I can also take this into cabinet. And along the way, I picked up this crayon. And I said to her, well, I'll take it into cabinet, and as soon as my colleagues start talking nonsense, I'll start coloring. So as I listened to the minister, I opened it, and I thought it would get to a point where she would talk nonsense, and I was ready to start coloring. You'll be pleased, Minister, that I didn't color. So you were not talking nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be here. This is one of my most favorite places to be, to talk about education, but more particularly to talk about something that we should have done 30 years ago. Minister, you were saying we need to admit where we've made mistakes, and I'm the first in government to admit that we made a mistake. We should have started with early childhood development. Universal early childhood development should have started 30 years ago. That's what we should have done. And I'm also on record in saying maybe what we should have done, because we had a legacy of Bantu education, is to close all schools maybe for 2 years. A good friend of mine is laughing because she has heard me talk about this. Close all schools for 2 years, take the educators, take them to re-education centers and have them re-educated so that they are ready to now teach the children properly. Yes, the children would have run around in streets without any education for 2 years, but that would have gained us a lot of time to be able to reform our education at an early stage. But as they say in the classics, it's never too late. It's better late than never. So we are 30 years late, but we are here today because of our shared belief, all of us here, in the profound importance of Bana, Pele, putting our children first. This belief is in many ways the cornerstone of our vision for a brighter future for the people of our country and our country indeed. And it is because of this shared vision that we unite and, yes, collaborate together today, committed to ensuring that every child has the opportunity to learn, to grow, to thrive by the age of 5. I was talking to someone early this morning explaining where I'm going, and I asked that parent at what stage did she send her children to school. And she said, I sent my first child to early childhood learning at 8 months, and the second child at 1 year. And knowing those children as I do, they are bright sparks now. So starting early as a nation and starting early as parents, getting our children into early learning, formalized early learning, is the absolute objective we must all chase. Our immediate focus is to extend access to early childhood development to every child. It is one of the most powerful levers that we have as a nation to unlock the potential of our future. We recognize today that investing in ECD is not just about education. It is about shaping the next generation of skilled, capable, as well as entrepreneurial citizens who will drive our economy forward. Early childhood development provides children with the foundational skills that the minister was talking about, the foundational skills that they need to build a successful future. If you look at every child, they are sponges. They are sponges waiting to be, filled with the water of education. They are sponges just willing and ready to suck in as much knowledge as possible. It also helps to break the cycle of poverty that is handed down, and we know it, from one generation to the next. If we look at the history of poverty in our country, many households will tell you that that poverty that they have today has been handed down from generation to generation. So early childhood development is about giving children from all backgrounds the opportunity to grow into confident, capable citizens who contribute positively to society. Children who receive a strong start are more likely to succeed in school and also in life, reducing the societal costs in areas such as healthcare, crime and prevention, as well as welfare. A research report published to coincide with Brazil's G20 presidency, and I was very pleased that the Brazilians also took up the issue of early childhood development in the way that they did. That report estimated that in South Africa, an investment of 2.1% in GDP in our universal childcare process could support 10.5 million women to join the workforce over 3 years. And because of the profound effect that ECD can have on social well-being as well as development, we have decided as a government, and I'm glad that as society, more and more people are joining in this, to put our children first. And you are a clear demonstration of that commitment and that desire, just merely by being here. Last week, the Minister of Finance announced an additional investment of 10 billion rand in ECD over the next 3 years. That is phenomenal. Now, having realized this as recently as 2 years ago, you will recall that ECD was in social development. And when we announced, it would have been 2 years ago or so, and I kept talking about it even in rallies, in campaign rallies, and even as I said it to just ordinary working women, women who are unemployed in the rural areas, and when I said, we're now going to move ECD from social development into basic education, I was actually quite amazed that people, ordinary people, understood what this meant. Because it meant that we're now stopping to treat early childhood development as a social development issue, but now taking it out of social development and putting it into basic education meant that we are now more serious. And there was resistance. There was some measure of resistance in those who felt that, yes, they wanted to continue overseeing the crashes, overseeing the whole process that was ongoing with children not being properly educated in a formalized setting. So when we decided to move it, I was so pleasantly pleased, I must say, that ordinary people in the deep rural areas understood. And even if they thought, Minister, that I was talking nonsense with everything else, this issue they applauded, as you have just applauded, which is fantastic because that was a very clear intention by government. And that is why we've now allocated 10 billion rand just for early childhood development. I said to the minister, we must pour money into this. We're all aware of the statistic that 80% of children in South Africa are unable to read for meaning by the age of 10. We know that. So early childhood development, in the end, is vital, is critical for developing foundational skills such as language, literacy, and numeracy. The experiences and interactions children have can significantly influence their future learning potential. This is why ECD must be treated as an urgent priority. We therefore welcome this wonderful initiative by business, civil society, and government to work together to shape the future of early childhood development. If there is any area where working together with business, government, and civil society, as well as labor, I should add, is important, I believe that this is the most important. Because in this, we stop talking politics, we stop talking about all these other things that we talk about. This is the one that matters most. Nothing matters most than this one. And thank you very much for being here. So this initiative will assist the strategic reorientation of the basic education sector to strengthen foundation learning. As the minister was saying, we don't have all the answers, and we cannot claim that we know it all. And much of it we are going to be taught by the children themselves. They are the ones who are going to impart the knowledge, the know-how, and what we need to do. Because in focusing on them and in being able to learn from their own experiences is going to guide us further. So the benefits of universal access to ECD extend beyond the education of the child. And I like the notion of saying universal. I was talking earlier to Adi Enthoven, and I always listen very carefully to what he says. But this time when he says universal, when he said universal access, I said, that's it. It means that we are all getting it. It cannot be access for some and leave others out. Because with this, we should leave no child behind. It needs to be universal access It helps to empower families to break free from the effects of poverty. So this initiative also emphasizes the importance of this early childhood development in a child's life, a period critical for cognitive as well as emotional development. And by focusing on comprehensive early childhood care and education, we can mitigate the disadvantages faced by many children due to poverty and lack of resources. The other issue that will be addressed, other than just imbibing knowledge, is actually to ensure that they are able to move up the ladder. This holistic approach will ensure that children not only receive education, but also proper nutrition, healthcare, and a safe environment. It basically means, as MEC of Education in Gauteng was saying in our private discussion, that we will be able to identify the ailments that the children will have at a very early stage, because we can do so in a formal setting of ECD rather than for each parent to guess and try and decipher what the ailment of their children are. So investing in ECD yields significant economic returns. Studies have shown that every rand spent on early childhood education can save up to 7 rands in future costs associated with remedial education, social services, as well as criminal justice. The ripple effects of a robust ECD system are felt across generations, fostering a cycle of opportunity and growth. We are determined as a government that every child, regardless of background or location, must have access to this quality early education. It is for this reason that the Department of Basic Education then launched the Bana Pele mass registration drive last year. And we call on all ECD programs, wherever they are, to register with the department so that all our children can receive the start in life that they need and deserve. Now, we've seen time and time again how South Africa excels when we come together. We have consistently shown that we can solve difficult problems when we unite for a common cause. The mass registration drive is an example of cross-sectoral collaboration at work. And we've been seeing on the board here words about collaboration, resilience, and all that as the minister was talking. We have an opportunity now to rethink and restructure the entire ECD landscape. And you are the people gathered here who are going to help us do precisely that, to make it more effective, more inclusive, and much more impactful than ever before. So this is a great opportunity of getting leaders and players in this sector like yourselves in a setting like this to be able to come up with ideas. I'm told that your commissions have already discussed a lot of the things that needs to be proposed, so I look forward to hearing what the proposals are. As South Africans, we have a clear goal for all our children: access to quality learning opportunities for an additional 1.3 million children by 2030. This is why we are here. Now, I become a little bit averse to setting, these fantastic targets. But this one, I do believe firmly is achievable. Can we do it by 2030? We've got 4 years to go, 5 if we're lucky or if we like, to get 1.3 million children into the system, allocating as much money as we are and increasing. I think it is possible. We need to create a collaborative framework for ECD, one that brings together, as we are seeking to do now, government, business, donors, civil society, ECD workers, and all other social players, labor included. This framework must ensure that all role players work together at both the provincial and municipal levels to improve access to quality early childhood education. Now, the access process is obviously going to be a challenge because we have to even set up places where these children are going to get this early childhood education. Now, today we've come together to explore new public-private partnerships, share innovative solutions, and improve the community-based initiatives that are already making a difference. Now, as we move forward, we must remember that there is no greater cause than uniting for the benefit of our children. And I'm glad that this initiative includes business and serious big business, as well as, yes, your medium businesses, small, medium enterprises, as well as various NGOs. Our future as a nation depends on the children that we raise today. That is a given. We must commit to creating that environment where every child, no matter where they come from, has the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to succeed. So let us all join hands and work together as a united force to achieve our shared vision of universal access. And let us all join in to right the wrong that was done to the children of our country 30 years ago. We now have that opportunity, and we are the people who must do it. And by doing so, we will not only secure the future of our children, but we finally also secure the future of South Africa itself. And if there ever was a meaning to this slogan, leave no one behind, it basically gains more meaning when we say, leave no child behind. This is our mission, and let us do it. And we can also start by coloring in this book. Thank you very much.
All right, so there you have it. President Cyril Ramaphosa there speaking at the inaugural Bana, Pele, ECD Leadership Summit taking place in Braamfontein. The idea here really is to try and make sure, of course, that ECD centers are well capacitated as the Basic Education Department takes over that particular aspect of learning. As part of the regulations that are now set to kick in, including, of course, the Pele Act, some context here is that ECD centers initially were, of course, under the Social Development Department. They are now under the Basic Education Department. And the president has spoken about how, frankly, as far as they're concerned, the first mistake they'll admit to is that this was meant to have happened 3 decades ago already. He says there's been many studies that are showing that, in fact, investing in early childhood development at an early stage has benefits that span over generations. In fact, a direct quote, he says, for every 1 rand that's spent on ECD, these are studies he's quoted, you can save 7 rand in the future. The president also saying that they don't have all the answers. In many ways, they anticipate that the answers will come from the children themselves as they continue really building a blueprint for how ECD should in fact be run in our country. He's also announced a massive target. They're hoping to get 1.3 million children registered formally in the sector by the year 2030. It may sound far, but it's less than half a decade from where we are now. And of course, it will require a whole lot of collaboration with the president and the minister have emphasized as part of their addresses. We know that this is a gathering that is in part also held by Business Leadership South Africa. There you go. And I imagine that we're going to hear from big business as well about the ways in which they are coming to the party for an initiative where, let's face it, if we do get it right, everyone stands to benefit. including, of course, business in the country. He's ended off there saying there's no greater cause than uniting for our children. I imagine that's going to be the theme that reverberates throughout the course of the day at that gathering. We'll certainly keep watching it for you, get you a sense of how things unfold and if there are any tangible resolutions that come from that particular summit. But we'll get you more on that story and others when the agenda continues.